Today's video, we're going to talk about, can you really sell anything with online ads? Okay, the answer to that, practically speaking, is yes, as long as you're not trying to sell a cat turd in a box and there's market for what you're selling, you can sell it with online ads, okay? You just have to find your audience. Where are the buyers at? And with online ads, your buyer's always going to be on the internet at some point in time, unless you're living in a cave. You can actually find them and sell to them. And the trick of it is, how do you find them but without having to advertise to the whole world to find them? Every person that you advertise to that isn't a prospect costs you money. And so the good advertisers understand how to find the platform and then the audience within the platform where the customer truly lies, so you can laser target them and you can make money. And of course, the other half of it is being interesting. You can't come in and if you sell something that 50 other million people sell, which most of us do, you can't just be like, here's the thing, buy it. I mean, initially, sometimes we're interesting enough, we can be, here's the features, here's the benefits, and they'll buy because it's really that great. A lot of times you got to kind of spice it up. How do we make it interesting? So you usually got to combine the two, but once you get good at doing this, you literally can make ads work for almost anything. And I know that because I run an ad agency and I got people in which we market all kinds of weird stuff all the time. Naturally, sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time it does because practically speaking, I understand how to do these two things. I've done it hundreds of times in hundreds of niches now. So what I'm going to cover in this video though is a bunch of these examples where I work with different clients and they've sold really weird stuff that any sane person, if you went, they came to you saying, hey, I want you to invest in this business, you'd tell them, screw off because that's never going to work. At least to run out online ads for that to get customers. And it actually did work. And I'm going to tell you how we set up those campaigns. And then the idea here being that it'll actually give you the encouragement to do this for yourself. Okay? If you're doubting yourself as to whether PPC or online ads can actually work for your business. So with that said, and before I get into the content, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability. In excess of the management fee that we charge, we're the only agency out there who does anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of the information that I'm sharing with you on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content. Now, what I've got here is actually the different businesses broken out by category. Local service, national service, local product, national product, or e-commerce, if you will. So you guys can't say, well, that doesn't, I can see you do it for that type of business, but not this type. And the reality is, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you have market demand for what you sell, you can make online ads work for that business if you understand being interesting and creating offers, irresistible offers, and understand targeting, okay? To give you the first weird example of a market that we've actually got online ads to work for that should inspire you on your end for a local service specifically. We had a client who was in doing kayak rental, okay? You may say, well, isn't that the type of thing you go to the lake and then you search around and you find somebody who has that, the park ranger or something that rents out kayaks? In a lot of cases, yes. However, it doesn't mean you can't actually start a business renting kayaks out. There's no rule against it for most lakes, or if you're doing it near the ocean, same thing. And so what we had a guy is he had this business. It's not the type of business you're going to get to be rich doing, but he wanted to just be his own boss, that type of business. This was years ago before, we basically don't work with those companies anymore because our fees are too high and there's not going to be any ROI there. But back in the day, we actually had somebody that did this and they just wanted a good enough campaign that could do this. Now, what did we actually do to get people that were going to the lake to want to rent his kayaks, which he lived right outside the area of the lake, and what he would do is just drive in when somebody would want to rent the kayaks out. Quality, high-end kayaks, which was a little bit better than what you could get locally near the lake there as well, inside the park or the park that surrounded the lake, so to say. What did he do, or what did we do, should I say, to sell and rent out these kayaks, okay? What we did is we ran a Facebook campaign, Google display campaign, other online ad campaigns 5 miles around the lake. So he'd run the ads. Basically, if you're at this park, you're going to be able to see the ads. It's not like if you're online, which there's cell signal near the park, so it was fine, you're going to be able to see our ads as some type somewhere on whatever platform you're basically on. If you're on weather.com, you're going to see them. If you're on Facebook, you're going to see them. With that, it basically only costs a penny or two to have a banner ad show up for somebody like that. whether it's on Facebook or whatever. So it doesn't cost that much to just market to everybody. We didn't have to segment it out any further than that. With that said, we were sending people to a landing page where they would share their location. Okay, so you hit a button that would send the user's location to our client itself, and then they knew where to bring the kayaks to. And the landing page explained, hey, we got these kayaks and they're the best kayaks and we charge this. And if you want to rent these kayaks, all you got to do is click this button and we'll be out there and basically within 30 minutes to deliver your kayaks and you can start having fun. And the ad, kind of basically alluded to that whole fact. But with that said, then we set up a tracking goal. So when somebody would share the location, that would feed back into the campaign. And so the campaign, even though it might be not that efficient right away, it eventually got real efficient over the years, because I still talk to this guy, because the data that he's built up of the people that are interested in a kayak, it's a massive list of customers now, and the ads are working really well as a result. So, and with this said, we had 1,000% ROAS plus on this ad campaign. Why? Because pretty much everybody that goes to this lake is going to want a kayak, not practically speaking, but we'll say 10%, okay? And when there's a few hundred people coming out to the lake every day, you don't need, it's actually really efficient. Going back to what I was saying before, in order to sell what you have online, the number one way that people go wrong is they don't know how to target their customer. They think to target their customer, they just run their ad on Facebook willy-nilly, and the one person out of 10,000 that's relevant to the offer will see the ad, click through and buy, and that's typically not good enough unless you have a huge lifetime value of a customer. So you won't make money after your ad expenses. But if you could find instead of 1 out of 10,000 being able to buy, 1 in 10 could buy, like in this case, you can make money. So that's a great example of a weird business that you wouldn't think you could possibly ever get to work with ads, that we got to work because we understood how to come up with something, a decent mousetrap where people could buy easily, if you will, targeting of which is just, people within that area itself, which is the easy part, of course. But going into the next example, we had for national service here now is psychiatrist or psychiatry for entrepreneurs. So this was a psychiatrist which we were working with that wanted psychiatry clients, and then what we ultimately found was they wanted more like entrepreneurs because they were not only worked well with them, but the value of a client was worth more. They would stick with it more. They had money, and they're like, Corey, can you basically bring us more of this? And I said, why don't you just turn your whole business, or should I say, create a whole website marketing yourself as the entrepreneur psychiatrist specialist, so to say. Whereas, there might be a person or two out there doing that already, but what we can do is we could target people who are looking for a psychiatrist that don't or aren't aware of these specialists that are out there. And we could just say that we're a specialist, and then we'll just suck all the demand from those entrepreneurs looking for a psychiatrist already. And that's exactly what we did. We had the client put together a little mini site, which we do that all the time anymore with clients, where we tell a client, hey, if you do roofing and siding and this, just make a site for roofing campaign that you're running, because it's going to convert way better because people want to hire specialists. We were running ads to people who were entrepreneurs looking for psychiatry. And then we would target people nationally itself in wealthier areas. So if somebody, this person being in Southern California, if somebody was in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is a rich, affluent area of Arizona, and they were searching for psychiatrists and they were an entrepreneur, our ad would basically pop up. And the way that you do that, by the way, is you have to come up with data lists itself and upload those data lists to Google. Not only for the algorithm to look at, but also you can actually, if you use manual bidding at least, you can have on the audience level, you can bid up for people that are on your audience and then lower your keyword bid so that your ad basically only shows up for entrepreneurs. That's a perfect way to get somebody searching for an everyday keyword that is in a sub-segment itself, like an entrepreneur, like maybe somebody who likes fast food, to see your ad when you don't want anybody else to see your ad, and to get a certain type of customer or client that you want. So normally this would be like an impossible task to find customers for it, because nobody looks for this type of thing and they don't even know they need it. They don't even know they want it. But when they're presented with it, they want it. You could carve out a whole new business segment and market to people in this way and have it work like we did with this particular client. And it was insanely profitable doing this, because when somebody sees somebody that's a specialist and there's no other specialist in their city, and by the way, in order to do this, they had to do all the consultations through a Zoom call. but it was fine because they knew they were dealing with the specialist, so they were fine with it, okay? But the return on the ad traffic was much higher than normal. Normally for a psychiatrist, you're gonna get close to 1,000, where we're getting over double that going with this route. Why? Mainly because the lifetime value of a client was higher. They had better retention. These people had more money to spend. Return on investment itself was over 1,900% itself the last time I checked it. And naturally, with like I mentioned on the last guy here, the more data you collect, the higher the ROI is going to essentially get, which is why it's so important to do conversion tracking with whatever ads that you're running. If you're running ads on the main platforms, they run off of algorithms now. But that's a perfect example of a weird market where you're thinking like, how the hell could you ever make that work? We made it work, and just by understanding that you could target, sub-target, and create certain lists, email lists, and so forth to find whatever targeted list that you need. It could be somebody who is an entrepreneur, who we knew searched for this, is of this age, is of this income level, which is part of what we did, has kids, ultimately is, likes fast food. We could have also did that, and there's ways to do that, and I won't get into how to do that in addition to what we did here. But if you had to, you could. Ultimately, it's not about, if there's a market for what you do, it's just a matter of finding the audience. And the audience can be found if you understand the ways to target ads online. Now, going forward with the local product here now, for you guys doing that. Local product meaning like a local brick and mortar store selling maybe medical supplies or whatever, that type of business. Now, the weird example that I have for you here is super weird, brownies. This guy sells brownies. And you say, well, how the hell are you going to run online ads for brownies and get it to work? The reality is you could you could rent a damn apartment out and make money with paid ads, a single apartment at a time, if you just had the targeting right and targeted the people that you know are in market for an apartment right now. Of the, million people in your city, if you knew the 1,000 people that are in market for an apartment and you just had your ad show up for those 1,000 people, of course you're going to make money. People don't think about it that way though. They just think, well, you either have to market to everybody or nothing, and that's certainly not the case in today's environment. It hasn't been the case for a while. But with the brownie guy, okay, this was a company, even, with that, this is a guy who had a lot of awards for selling his brownies, which gave him so much confidence to say, hey, I'm able to, just through the exposure, through the awards that we're getting, and then doing certain partnerships with other businesses to sell our product locally, that we should just be able to go direct to consumer like other e-commerce companies do that manufacture products. They just go directly and sell through their website to the consumer. No wholesalers, no dealers, none of that. And how do we do that for our own type of business itself, even though it is just brownies? They thought they could do it. They came to me. I said, maybe we can do this, but I had to think about it. What we ultimately came up together after a little bit of trial and error is this formula right here. So basically what we did was I said, how many of these people who try your brownies like them to the point where they'll buy itself? Mostly everybody who tries our brownies will buy some. And I said, well, okay, great. Well, we're not going to try to sell the brownies to somebody who's never tried it. That's way too hard. It's easier just to get them to try the damn brownie and then sell to them because they're going to buy it anyway, which most of the people embellish that. Everybody thinks their product's so good. Their closing rates are so good. They really aren't as good as what they say, as I found out over the years. But I knew, practically speaking, probably 20, 30% of people, 40% of people who tried these would be able to buy them, at least if it were easy to buy them. That's the tricky part, because if you sell the brownies to somebody through your website, how do you get them to order again, given it takes effort, to get off the couch or on their phone to go through the checkout and everything else? So we offered a free sample to people, and the goal was to be able to afford to send out free samples everywhere, break even on the campaign somehow, because everybody, if they're trying the brownies in the city, now you've got your huge customer base already. You literally don't have to break even, only have to break even, because once you got the whole city have tried your brownies, all the people who like brownies are going to be doing business with you. They're going to talk to the other brownie lovers, and you're going to have your business, so to say. So that's what we did. We ran a Facebook campaign giving people free samples. Okay, which most people aren't going to do that ever because they want, oh no, I'm not giving nobody a free sample. I want them to pay up front. And the reality is, It's hard to get people to do that when they don't know, like, and trust you already, which is why people build followings. The whole point of people building social media followings for businesses is to get them to know, like, and trust you so they will be able to buy your product or service. And once they do that, the product is quality and they're still going to buy. Whereas you go to the best product in the world and that they don't know you, it's going to be hard as hell to get them to buy your product. I mean, that's the reality in the world we live in, how things really operate. So we convinced them to do a free sample campaign, figured out how to get it done as cheaply as possible. Guy on a scooter delivering these free samples full time in the summer, where it wasn't going to cost very much money to deliver the samples, and it's going to be $15 per sample in terms of the ad cost, the brownie itself, and the delivery guy coming to deliver it. Okay? Now, the one thing that actually got this campaign to work is we had a reordering app, and I got this from somebody else, borrowed it from some other guy that was in a market where he did laundry services, where he had an app where you could press a button on your app, and then guy would magically show up at your house like in an hour saying, I'm going to pick up all your laundry and do it and bring it back to you. And it was a flat amount each time. And it was a brilliant business idea. When I saw that, I was like, damn, you could use that for so many different types of businesses. You could do that for lawn care and this and this. In this particular case, I mentioned this to him and I said, why don't we do this for your brownie business? Have the requirement that if you are going to get the free sample, you can get people to jump through hoops once they're getting something for free, because people love for free. Even if they are rich, they love free shit. You could get them to download this app on their phone, and then once they download the app, they can ask for the free sample via the app, okay? Once they have the app on their phone and they are used to using it, it's much easier to get them to reorder because that app has a button on it now. It's the main button on the app. It just says brownie button. And you just hit the button and you're going to get somebody to show up at your place within a short period of time bringing the brownies, or it will be shipped to your door. And, of course, if you get it shipped to your door, it's cheaper. But either way, you have either option. Some people want they're fixed now and some people will wait a little longer. And if you do one or the other, you're only going to get so many orders because different people want different things. Anyway, we had this, and then a lot of people would never order again, but some people would order a shitload. I mean, we're talking like every 20th customer, they're ordering and ordering and ordering and ordering. Like they're ordering an average of 20, 30, 40, 50 freaking times, which is where your whales come from. It's kind of like, in the mobile game market. They offer the free mobile game knowing 1 out of 1,000 customers is going to go piss away, every paycheck that they get for the next year that they're playing this game. And that's what funds the entire operation. That's the same thing here. You got your brownie whales in this case. So we had that, our lifetime value of a customer, when we added all the revenue from all the orders divided by the amount of people initially were asking for the free sample, we were right around $23 in lifetime value per sample, which was higher than what it cost to deliver the sample. So we hit a home run with this one, given that all we had to do was to break even and we would already be good, and we were already making a slight profit with this, assuming that we waited, of course, for all the reorders to come in, which on a business like that, that's what the issue is, right? That people don't like, which is I don't want to have to wait 2 years for all my orders to come in so that I could scale my campaign up the next notch or what have you. Ultimately, if you're selling product that's reliant on reorders, a lot of times you're going to have to settle for that because it's extremely hard to make money on the initial transaction. If you're in a business like that and you can make it work, Godspeed to you, because that's damn hard to do. So anyway, we were able to, when it was all said and done with, make money and ultimately mission accomplished. So that's a perfect example of how you could take an everyday item even and make money with it, and something that's sold locally, a product that's sold at every corner store, gas station, whatever, you can sell it via paid ads. So that should enough. That's the most amazing example out of everything I've mentioned so far. Should encourage you that yes, there is a way to make paid ads work, but typically hiring a cheap ad agency that charges $500 a month isn't going to be your creative power to be able to put a campaign like this together. It's either you yourself are going to have to do it, or you're going to have to work with a very creative, capable agency that set up hundreds of campaigns and worked on stuff like this and had success with stuff like this in the past, building campaign funnels up from scratch, which, of course, if you want that, the best, there's other agencies out there that could technically do that. We're one of which that this is what we do, and we guarantee results for clients. If we're going to agree to take you on, we're not going to charge unless we can get you a certain minimum lift in your profitability. If you're interested in that, you can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. We also sell ad templates. If you're in a market that we've been in already, we can also sell you the winning ad campaign template, landing page template, campaign template, all of it that works for your market, and you can copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we're getting. So ultimately, if you're interested in that and you don't want to work with an ad agency, that's a great way to get the results you're looking for without having to work with an agency outright. I also do coaching. If you want to have somebody come up with a funnel idea for you like the brownie guy, let me know. In a 30-minute coaching session, we could probably come up with one already in that time, just spitballing ideas. So for that matter, I'll go into the next one here. So now for national products or e-commerce, if you will, okay? The weird example I have for you here to mention is furnace filters. So, if you have a furnace, you're in a northern state or a place where it's cold, the furnace has a filter on it so that the air that's being circulated through your house is filtered. And so these got to be changed like once a year or something like that. Ultimately, when you buy the furnace filter, you have to figure out, okay, how do I find a filter that's going to work for my actual furnace here? And you may go to a Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, hardware store, to pick up a furnace filter. But a lot of people anymore, they don't want to do that. They want to go online to order it. Why? Because they don't have to go to the damn store. It comes directly to their doorstep. That's becoming more and more common every day, to the point where you could set up whole e-commerce stores for weird, wacky items like this and make it work. Even though you're not going to become a billionaire doing it, you could make easily a full-time, honest job, living setting up an e-commerce site selling, weird items like this, just because you understand how to set up the ads, right? Because technically, yes, anybody could sell furnace filters. There's not a lot of barrier to entry, but your differentiator in a business like this, in e-commerce, that on an item, especially where there's no direct interaction, like having to talk to customers on the phone and answer their questions and so forth, comes from being better at the PPC than other people in your niche, and of course having a better quality website that converts better. So with that said, this guy, we worked together and helped him set up a Google campaign. He was failing before because he wasn't doing things his way. I had mentioned to him, if you're going to do something like this, the bread and butter for you is to set up a Google campaign, not even with shopping ads, just a straight Google search campaign, targeting all the model numbers of all the furnaces out there. You've got to get a database of every single furnace in existence and the make and model, like Rude XYGR or Rheem X12 or whatever. And you got to have it when somebody types in those make and model numbers of furnaces, and then filter after it, or filters or replacement filter or something like that you show up. Your ad mentions exactly what they're looking for. So if they're looking for a Rude XJ12R furnace filter, an ad says, buy Rude XJR12 furnace filter for sale in stock, ready to ship, 2-day shipping, buy now, which is about the formula what we used. It tells them exactly what they want to know with no, okay? And furthermore, it doesn't take them to the freaking homepage and make them search for it. It takes them to that exact furnace filter you mentioned on the ad and that they ultimately need. We set that up. Campaign worked like gangbusters, ultimately. Why? Because other people they're competing against don't want to do that work, or they tell themselves they don't need to do it, or they're too arrogant, put the time in to do it, which you can beat most of your competition just because they're so freaking arrogant. It's ridiculous. They don't want to think they have to do anything to make money. They should just have a website like everybody else and it should just make money and that's it, which, if you're running ads and there's competition, he who has better ads wins. That's the general idea of the day here, how things work nowadays. But with that said, now the other thing with a cheap product like a furnace filter that costs like $40 is people don't want to check out through your website because A, they don't want to give their credit card information to a new website. B, it's hard to fill out the credit card information. Yeah, a lot of devices have it saved in the memory now and whatever in your browser itself, but a lot of people don't have that. And for like older people, it's hard for them to type. You got to understand this when you're trying to get into business for yourself, running an e-commerce site. For that matter, you will make more money, even though a lot of people don't like the idea of it, having a buy with Prime button on your website, so that, because everybody's pretty much now has a Facebook account itself, and they have a Prime account on top of it. You have a buy with Prime button on your website, which allows them to click on the product page when they get there from our ad, like I talked about. You click on it and it's a pop-up that says just, log into Amazon. Once you log in, you're able to finish your order on the website. You didn't have to go to Amazon and it's done, okay? It allows them to not have to enter all their credit card information or give the information to the website itself at all. Both things are taken care of there. And that's what they did. And by the way, buy with Prime is something that a lot of people would think is they don't want to pay all those fees to Amazon. The reality is the fee is only like 3% of the transaction. And the reason why Amazon is willing to do that is because they can collect more buyer data that way. They're getting the data, you're getting the higher conversion rate. But with that said, that worked great. Now, we only got about a 350% ROAS in that particular case, but a lot of you guys don't think about how much money you're going to make on the organic traffic. I have a lot of guys, they say, oh, I know my margins and this and this and this, and I got to have a 650% ROAS to make money. Not thinking about, hey, Google misses some of the conversion, so a 650 is really like an 800% or 900% ROAS. That's number one. Two, they don't understand that if they don't run any ads, their organic rankings are never going to come. So they don't look at Google plus organic rankings as a bundle, especially in e-commerce like this, to where literally half almost of your profit is just going to come from the organic rankings that you get that are a direct result of scaling up an ad campaign to 10,000 plus a month, which is why I tell literally every e-commerce business out there that I work with now that you need to be evaluating what you're doing with your ads in terms of scaling, in terms of MER ratio, marketing efficiency ratio, which is looking at total sales in your company divided by total ad spend, and you figure out a true ratio there that you're happy with and try to scale the ad spend as quickly as you can maintain your ratio there. Why? Because of the things I just said. So the 350% ROAS made a little bit of profit, but the real money's made in ranking like hell because you're able to scale up to spending 20, 30,000 a month on ads on Google. And now you rank like hell now. And because the other guys that set up websites, they're trying to get their little piddly little organic traffic going, which they can't get because they don't advertise at all. And therefore they don't have a big brand. Therefore they don't get the authority, domain authority. Therefore they don't rank worth a shit. Which, Google set the system up that they give the traffic to the person who doesn't need it. The top guy. Well, how do you become the top guy? You figure out an ad campaign that is profitable on a small spend, and then you're able to scale the ad spend accordingly. And eventually when you scale the shit out of your ad spend, the rankings just automatically come. Because you had to do two things to get there. A, you had to understand how to make a website convert. And then two, you forced yourself to reviews and brand recognition that way, which all goes into the ranking system that Google has that they look at and decide who's ranking, who's not. That's another great example of another weird product. You think, like, who the hell would buy furnace filters online? Because you can just go to any hardware store down the street and get those. So anyway, with that said, I've got a ton of information on this channel about how to make weird products sell and services sell with ads. If you're looking for that information, you want to absolutely subscribe to this channel because it's all for free here and it's coming from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm. It's my sole job. I spend my weekends, literally 30 hours a week, just working on this YouTube channel, mostly on the weekends. And, in addition to the weekends, during the week, I'm doing some planning and so on and so forth. I work like hell to give you the information that I'm giving you here. Most of the people you see on YouTube, they don't manage any ads. That's why they have such great, beautiful YouTube videos. The information's useless because they're not an actual practitioner, okay? So if you're going to pay attention to anything, you should start here. I've also got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog where you can find step-by-step information on how to use the strategies we're using at our firm to guarantee clients results as well, with screenshots, with everything you would need to use them. So if you like the channel, you should check the blog as well. If you have any questions about anything I covered here, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. So that gives you a great example of different markets, different types of businesses where we're able to get paid ads to work by being a little bit more creative, understanding how to target, not just target, but hyper target the people that actually buy. And then furthermore, figure out something that we can offer that the other competitors aren't offering now. Therefore, making our company seem 10 times more attractive than any other company in our space. And you can tack it, a lot of times from either angle. You can either be better at targeting than anybody else, or you can have a better offer than anybody else, and you usually can win with either. When you combine both, your sales will explode at that point in time. But certainly you could just figure out if you sell promotional cups with logos on them, if you just know the 100 people that are buying those right this second, and just show up there, you don't have to be that creative. Or if you want to have it, you target the world with your cup offer, you got to understand how you are going to get people's attention. Are you going to offer people a free cup with their logo on it? And then assume that X% are going to actually buy after that, and they're going to order XYZ times, they're going to make X revenue from that, and then I'm going to cross-sell them, I'm going to make X revenue from that, and when I divide all that, divided by what it cost me to do the sample, blah, 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 you're making money. People don't think this deeply. The average guy you're competing against doesn't think this deeply about things. You can think deeper and then therefore make money because you were the deep thinker in your market. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said online ads was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.